Imagine being trapped in a city for nearly 900 days, no electricity, no heat, no food, just ice, bombs, and death. You're surrounded, the enemy is closing in, and winter is coming. This is not fiction. This was life in Leningrad during World War II, a city held hostage by war, starvation, and the brutal cold. This is the story of survival, the 872-day siege that tested the human spirit to its breaking point. Before it was Leningrad, it was St. Petersburg, Russia's imperial capital, a jewel of culture, science, and revolution. By 1941, it was the second largest city in the Soviet Union, with a population of about 3 million. When Adolf Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, the massive German invasion of the Soviet Union in June 1941, Leningrad was a prime target. Hitler saw it as both strategically and symbolically vital. If Leningrad fell, it would be a devastating blow to Soviet morale, and the path to Moscow would lie open. But Hitler didn't just want to capture the city, he wanted it erased. A German directive issued that summer read, "The Führer has decided to erase the city of Petersburg from the face of the earth. We have no interest in saving even a part of the population." The siege officially began on September 8, 1941, when German forces cut off the last land route into Leningrad by capturing the town of Schlisselburg on Lake Ladoga. To the south and west, the German Army Group North had pushed deep into Soviet territory. To the north, the Finnish army, allied with Germany, held the Karelian Isthmus, blocking any chance of Soviet retreat. The city was surrounded, factories were shut down, rail lines destroyed, supply depots bombed. The German Luftwaffe rained down incendiary bombs, reducing grain silos to ash. What was meant to last for months was destroyed in hours. Leningrad was sealed off. No food, no supplies, no escape. Then came the hunger. By November 1941, daily rations for civilians dropped to just 125 grams of bread, about the size of a slice. And even that bread was bulked with sawdust or wallpaper glue. People began boiling leather belts, eating pets, rats, glue. Some dug up the dead. Others turned to cannibalism, a grim and tragic reality documented by Soviet authorities. The winter of 1941-42 was one of the harshest in decades. Temperatures plummeted to -30 degrees Celsius. Heating systems froze, pipes burst, people burned books, furniture, even their floorboards for warmth. Over 100,000 people died in January 1942 alone, most from starvation. Some simply lay down in the snow and never got up again. But from the darkness emerged a fragile lifeline. Across the frozen surface of Lake Ladoga, Soviet engineers created a supply route dubbed the Road of Life. Trucks carried food in, evacuees were driven out, but the ice cracked under weight, and German bombers targeted the convoys relentlessly. Still, the convoys rolled forward, sometimes under fire, sometimes in total silence. Over the course of the siege, more than 1 million civilians were evacuated, many of them children, but just as many remained, and they fought, not with guns, but with willpower. Workers continued to build tanks, ammunition, and artillery inside the city's frozen factories. Leningrad refused to fall. Even in the heart of catastrophe, Leningrad's cultural soul endured. The Philharmonic Orchestra, starving and frostbitten, gathered in 1942 under conductor Karl Eliasberg. Their mission: perform Dmitri Shostakovich's Seventh Symphony, written as a tribute to the besieged city. Musicians collapsed during rehearsal. Some had to be lifted into their chairs. Yet, on August 9, 1942, the symphony was performed, broadcast on loudspeakers throughout the city, even to enemy lines. It was music as defiance. a cultural counterstrike. While the city starved, the Red Army regrouped. The Soviet High Command knew Leningrad could not fall. Politically, it was unthinkable. Throughout 1942 and 1943, Soviet forces launched several offensives to break the blockade. Most failed with heavy losses, but on January 18, 1943, during Operation Iskra, meaning spark, Soviet troops managed to pierce the German lines south of Lake Ladoga. A narrow land corridor, only 8 to 10 kilometers wide, was opened. It wasn't the end of the siege, but it was the beginning of hope. Supplies could now move by rail. Starvation levels dropped. The city slowly began to breathe again. It wasn't until January 27, 1944, nearly 2.5 years after it began, that the siege was fully lifted. The Red Army launched a massive offensive that pushed the Germans 100 kilometers away from the city. For the first time since 1941, Leningrad was free. The city had survived 872 days under siege, but at a staggering cost. The numbers are hard to grasp. It's estimated that over 1 million civilians died during the siege, most from starvation and cold. Another 300,000 Soviet soldiers died defending or supplying the city. Entire families were lost, children orphaned, streets lined with unburied dead. Survivors were left with deep physical and psychological scars, yet Leningrad never surrendered. In the years after the war, Leningrad's resistance became legendary. The city was awarded the title of Hero City, one of only 12 Soviet cities to receive the honor. But the trauma lingered. The Soviet government often suppressed the worst details, including reports of cannibalism and starvation, to preserve the image of heroic endurance. Today, the memory of the siege lives on in museums, diaries, music, and stone. The Piskaryovskoye Memorial Cemetery holds the remains of nearly 500,000 people, a silent field of grief and remembrance. Each year, on January 27th, the city, now known again as St. Petersburg, marks the lifting of the siege with solemn ceremony. The siege of Leningrad was not just a military event, it was a tragedy, a crime, a miracle. It revealed the very worst and the very best of humanity: cruelty, starvation, and death, but also sacrifice, courage, and unbreakable resolve. Leningrad did not fall. Its people endured. They held the line, not just for a city, but for an idea that even in the deepest darkness, the human spirit can survive.